Hi everyone and welcome back. Today we will be extracting data from our 3D model from the shed we've been working on on a few sessions. Um, I suggest you look at the PDF. It's like subdivided in like different parts and steps. What we will be starting with is extracting a bill of material for our glue lamp. But actually, before we do this, I would like to add a connector. I'd like to connect this beam with the two, well, with the column we have. So let's focus on this. So I suggest you open you use the existing shed roof that you've been working on before, and let's take the two parts and we can go to add catalog. The shortcut is N, and let's add a connector that we have in our library. So we have items from different suppliers. And for instance, here I'd like to add a KNAP connector. So here you see for KNAP we have HQ and LQ. So for fabrication I suggest you use the low quality. So low quality means it's precise enough for fabrication, but it's not highly detailed. Uh, we don't need like a highly detailed item or connector. It I would use the HQ more for like pretty picture rendering to show a connection, but low quality means it's enough to use for fabrication and make shop drawings, count, and export data to CNC machines. So here we will be adding a Gigant 180. So note that it's probably too small. So here it's actually, I'm lucky, it's coming in the right direction. It's already well oriented. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to um, do a dado um, on the column. And if you need to orientate the connection in a different way, you can press R. So it's going to be stay plumb, but it rotates each time I press R, it rotates 90 degrees. So here I could add it on this end here, or I press R again and I'm gonna connect this here. So I press M for midpoint. I'm gonna place this guy here in the center, and let's get out from here. Let's do a Z view and let's look at a wireframe. So here we see that it's actually inside the column. So half of the connector will be attached to the to the column and half to the girth. Now, um, yeah, the way it's placed is not really ideal. Um, it would be better to have it down here um, for engineering reasons. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna jump in a 2D plane and place the connector towards the bottom here. So I'm going to place it about precisely 4 inches from the bottom. So you have to look at the specs from the supplier. And here I'm going to press E to offset, and I'm offsetting it above the bottom of the bottom of the girth. And I'm going to pick the bottom here and move it so 5y towards the intersection. And here I have an extruder or a piece of solid that I will be using to do the dado inside the column. So I need to stretch this guy, so I need to select it, and I don't want to stretch the rest, but only the extruder. So the name of that part is extrusion, and it's an auxiliary element that I can easily stretch. So you see here, I pick the edge, press 7, and then click here on the top here. So we do have a bevel cut here at the top, so I made sure that I selected the right corner, and I see here it's extended a little bit. So now this is all good. I'm just gonna check and make sure that we see here this part will be attached to the so if I hide maybe the rest and show you how it looks like, so this part will be attached to the girth, and it's gonna drop and follow the dado until it will be locked against or inside this part that will be attached to the column. So it all works. I can move forward to the next step. So what I'll do, I can copy the whole assembly here. I can uncheck join, unselect join, so I can just click on one item of the connector and it's gonna be activated. Then I can press 6, S, X, so SX, and then M for midpoint, and I pick the edge here, and it's copied symmetrically on the other end. Now it's all good. Now what I can do, I can bring back the model. I'm gonna hide all the CLT, the roof. So Control A M, uh, the star button or multiplication on the numpad hides the part, and then I can probably switch back to wireframe and activate this guy, right click to activate the other one, and then I can use the copy reference function, so 6H, so you see at the bottom, H for reference, and then the reference part is this guy. I can right click to confirm, and now I want to copy this part on other beams. Oops, not this one, but this one here. So once you're happy, you right click and all the connectors have been added properly. So now the next step is to cut out the dado. So I need to select only the cutting part. So I make sure join is red. So I left click on the square here, and then I do Control A N to activate all the extruders, and I do C to cut, W to cut active hard and soft, and now Cadwork is asking me to select the soft elements. So I can select the first post or column, and then I can do Control A to activate all the parts with the same name. So here I have some extra items, but that's okay. I should probably rename these concrete base differently. So here I can just right click, and because there is no collision against these, I'm just fine. So there we go. Well, we can check and make sure this is cut properly. So we've added these, and now I can continue. And the next step is to assign or to make a bill of material for all the glulam. That's what I'd like to do. So I do Control A M for material, / to hide the other parts. And before we crunch a list, I need to explain something important here. If I select one or several beams, you will see that we have real dimensions and rough dimensions. So for glulam, it's not as crucial. Well, it is important, but especially for the length. But for timbers or lumber, for instance, a 2 by 4, the real dimension of a 2 by 4 is 1.5 by 3.5. But when you make a list, when you compute the board footage, it's based on the rough dimensions, and you will be ordering probably a 10 feet, a 10 footer or 16 footer. So that has to be rounded as well to order the proper length. So anyway, for glulam, this is slightly different because we are not touching the cross section, but the length, it's probably a good idea. So I activate all the glulam parts, glulam beams. I go modify, rough dimensions. And also what I'd like to do, I'd like to add an over length. So I need some extra material and I will be adding 2 inches. So it depends. Each fabricator has different methods, but here I would say minimum is 2 inches, and then I'm gonna round the length. So here, for instance, for timbers, it's typically 2 feet increments. So you order 10, 12, 14, 16 footers, um, depending on the supplier. Here I'm gonna assign a value of 4 inches. So it's adding 2 inches and then rounding to the closest 4 inch increment. So now if we look at this column here, so the real length is 17 feet 1 and 13/16, and in my list it will be listed at 17 feet and 4 inches. Okay, so I guess that makes sense. I just noticed here I forgot something. um, there is I will be having a collision. So if I bring back the whole model, let's hide these guys. And here I still need to cut the the rafter here, or the girth. So by pressing CW and selecting this, and let's see now. Yes, I have the dado achieved here. So Control AM, and let's focus again on this. This has no impact on my bill of material, obviously, because this is like a process that will be added once we receive the beams, the rough beams. So here we have the we've added an overlength, we've rounded the length. We don't need to worry about the round width or round height. So you see here, if I click on round width, I can round to the closest inch. So this is typically what we do for lumber and timbers. Same thing for the round height. Um, anyway, here I can assign a parts list number. So I can go to export. So note you can activate the parts and have other parts not activated, or I can bring what I need in the list and make it visible. I don't need to activate it. I can go export list, and we will be starting with a part list. So the first step is to calculate. So when I run the calculation, it's gonna look at, well, different attributes. It could be the grade, it could be the obviously the species, wood species. If it was timber, it could be like oak, pine, etc. So it's gonna sort by type of wood, grade, etc. So you can set that up, and it's really highly flexible. Here it's going to be simply obviously the material, so glulam, and the dimensions. So here it's finding 8 different parts, starting from 1. Now the part number has been assigned, parts list number, and then I can output the list. So I'm going to call this file GL for glulam, and I'm going to just use the init file, so the templates that like the default template to open to format this list with. So it takes a few seconds to extract all the data and bring that in our list module. So this is our list module. Um, I can also export the data to different files, the different file formats, file export. So you see here I can export a CSV, I can export to Excel or text file. So eventually you could take that into an ERP system if you have to, or bring that in Excel and do some further processing in Excel or other um, spreadsheet. Um, Here I'm not really happy with the the cross section. So the width and the height, that's not really ideal. The length is fine, but you see here if I right click here on the top right, top left corner, I can set it to the optimal width. And now we see that this is the width. And I don't like to see for cross section like feet and inches. I'd like to remain to have only results in inches. So I can right click at the top of the column, change the unit for this one, and make sure this is set to inches and fractions only. So you see here now it's 20 inches. Same thing for the height. Change the unit and click apply and OK. So we could save that as our default template or init file. So to do so, you can click on Format, Format Pattern, and Save Init. Or you could save the settings. You could save multiple settings for different suppliers by clicking on Format Pattern, Save Settings. And here you already we have a list of predefined settings. You can also add more columns. So I already explained you have lots of options to add many attributes for installation, for transport, logistic, fabrication, etc. You can add more. So if you have more attributes to add them, you can go to View, Content, Order, and here you see on the right you have the current um, columns, and you can add more, and all these are available there. So I'm not gonna spend too much time here. There are lots of options in the list module. I think one really important feature in here is under extra, you have the optimization feature. So we will be running the optimization for the parts list. It can be also done for production list. Something important is the saw curve. So you could laminate, we will be laminating like 60 feet long beams, but then you're using a saw to separate. So let's do a 1/4 of an inch saw curve. And eventually we would like to have 1 inch on each end of the the beam, so the 60 feet laminate beam. And so it's up to you. You can change it to have more. It depends on the quality of your laminate. And then another important thing, you have an option here to generate stock length. So I could say I'd like to start with like from 20 feet long material all the way to 60 feet using 2 feet increments. So it's going to create the stock automatically from 20 to 60 feet with 2 feet increments. Or I could just specify, so we will be, I'm going to optimize like the 5 by 20 and the column. I've already specified here, I see we have 60 feet long material. We could even like specify if we had stock or in the yard already like laminates that are beams that are 5 by 20. We could specify how many we have. So 60 feet, let's say we have two of them, and eventually we have 40 feet and we have three of them, etc. Or we could say we have unlimited. We would like typically to do 60, 45, and 30 feet. So you don't have to specify a quantity here, how many you have. So once you're happy with this, you can click on optimization. Um, do we want to save it to the stock? No, not doesn't have to be saved. And here I do have the result. So 5 by 20, I need two 60 feet long beams, and I need in one of them I have one 19, two 19, three 19. So that's part number 2. That's the parts list number. And then I need another one in which I do also 19, 4. And then for the 20 by 20, I need one 45 feet and two 60 feet. And here you have some stats about the optimization. So this is a text file. If I close it, it's saved into my folder here. So that's the optimization. And I have my list file as well. So here I close this and I can close my parts list. Yes. So let's move back to our model. So once we have, so before you export the parts list, important is to check the material, the different attributes like grade, etc. Check for like overlength, like rough dimensions, and then you can crunch the number, extract the bill of material. Now, I'd like to move to the production list. So before you do the production list, you compute the production numbers. I suggest you check for collisions. So you activate the structure, Control K. Control K is the shortcut. No collision detected. So if you do not recall, that's under Tools. And here you have collision check. So here nothing is activated, so it's not available, but now parts are activated and you get the result. So that's good news. We have no collisions. If you have collisions, then it's no good. You should check your model and fix it before exporting production numbers. So export list, production list. So now same thing, we run the calculation first. Here, Cadwork is finding 13 different production numbers. It's starting from production number 1. And here, as soon as the calculation is done, you don't really need to output a list. You could output a list for eventually, well, different use for quality control to follow the fabrication, and you have that list that goes from like all the way through fabrication until you load it onto the truck eventually, and you can add check marks to make sure that this is well loaded and well fabricated. So you can, well, I'm just gonna output the list quickly just for you to see. So here I'm gonna write like prod GL for glulam, and here it's a different format. So again, this can be changed. So here we have, so if I make sure I have the optimal width, we have the production number, and in parallel we have also the parts list. So we see here that part number 5, we need 2 of them that are coming from the parts list, and it's becoming part number 5 in the parts list will be part number 5 for production, but also part number 5 for parts list will become part number 6, and that's a GERD here, and I can easily explain. So here what I meant by maybe quality control is would be by adding some columns for the different stages, fabrication stages you have in your for your fabrication and for the whole process, including shipping and installation eventually. So here I'm gonna save the production list, and here you notice that as soon as I run the calculation, I saw the production number in the model. So this is the attributes display. So that's what you see here at the top. So you can display or not production numbers, but if you click on the gears here, you see that you have lots of options. Um, so currently we are only displaying the production number, but I could add all these attributes. So for instance, I could add the name. So here I double click on the name. I'd like to see the name first, name followed by production number. I'm going to use as a separator a dash. So if you're displaying a cross section with fractions, this is probably not a good idea to use the forward slash. So here I'm using a dash, and then you see the text will be placed in the middle of the beam. Here you have a preview, Ridge 4. So if I click apply, we see now post 7, post 9, purlin 2, etc. So that's pretty straightforward. You have lots of options with all these attributes. You also see that currently I'm looking at the setting for in the first tab where it says 3D settings. It's actually what's being displayed, but you can also customize each export. So we saw before how we can create a clipboard by pressing comma, um, and we will see some other exports later on that we can also customize, and we can apply different attributes when exporting different drawings. So here for the 3D setting, I'm going to remove the name just by double clicking on name. It moves it away from the list. And one important thing is the customization or the options you have when displaying attributes. So for instance, if you would like to display the weight, or you see here an angle, you can choose how to display in what um, unit you would like to display, like the weight. We want to display it in pounds. We want to use 1 decimal, so it's going to be 36.5 pounds. or whatever, and we would like to display the unit. So if you have just a value 37.5, doesn't mean much, but if it's followed by LB, you know what it is. So you see you have lots of of options and lots of flexibility here in here. Um, so I'll let you play with this and customize that so it fits your need. Once you have your production numbers, you are able to output shop drawings. So here I select my beams and I can go export shop drawings, and here we will be looking at the piece by piece shop drawing. So we see we have different shop drawing export features, but the one here is the piece by piece, so it means each production number will be represented on its own page. So export, you don't have to run calculation, do individual control, etc. We can simply go to export, and now it's asking me for a clipboard number. So I right click to create clipboard number one, and now it's crunching and outputting the clipboard. Now I can go back to my current folder, and I'm going to create a new 2D file. So right click, new 2D, and I'm going to call it shop. And now we have our 2D file open. I can paste the result, so 3 to paste, right click to load clipboard number one. And remember, I don't have a point here. You see that this is the top left corner of all my shop drawings. I can middle click to place the shop drawings in the 2D program. Here I'd like to display so these drawings are in different layer in order to fit the page. So if I want to see all the drawing easily, I can click on Vision and then uncheck Grade Layers. So no matter in what layer you are, um, no matter what is the active layer, you will be seeing the drawings clearly. Otherwise, they are grayed out. So here you see that's part number one, part number two, three, and each part is on an 11 by 17 on a ledger page. The title block is filling automatically. I have the title block also with the logo, with the company info, uh, different views of the parts, so that it can be customized, and I have an axonometric view as well. There is something that is pretty interesting, and I can change the settings here. I'd like to export a QR code with my drawings. So eventually that can be helpful. I'm just going to do one part. So export, shop drawing, piece by piece. I do the export. And what's inside the QR code can be customized as well. So depending on what you would like to have. So 3 to paste, and here I do have a QR code. So in there I can have the dimension, so cross section and length. I can have the weight. I can have the address of the client, of the building site, etc. So the weight can be useful for the guy at the crane, and there is also a link with our WebGL. So if you'd like to, we have some clients using it for on-site installation where you can scan the parts like the label on the part, and Cadwork can also help you to print labels and include the QR code on the label. Anyway, let's look at the drawing. So here we have a drilling on this end. Um, it's actually, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that is. Oh no, that's the dado for the connector, and there is a drilling for the connector as well. So that's actually this here. So the dado, and I can also manually add dimensions if I want to. So same shortcuts. So H for horizontal dimension. So H between here and there, etc. And V for vertical, P for parallel. So you can edit these and add more data in there. Okay, let's move to the next topic. So we've seen production numbers for the beams, shop drawing export for these beams. Now we can move to our panels. So Control AM /. Here I do Control K, so check for collisions, no collisions. I can assign a production number as well. So export list, production list, and here I run the calculation for the visible parts. Here I see that, well, for beams I've used 1 to 13. 14 is available, but I can decide to overwrite or change the starting number for the panels. I'd like to start from 20. Okay, and here um, it's already assigned. Now I can move to the shop drawing. So I could export shop drawings the same way I did, but we also have another feature for CLT, but this requires to change a setting here. So it's under modify, modify element module properties, or you press Control E, and here I can specify that these panels are for the uh, roof panels, so solid roof walls. So CLT or SIPs would work as well. Um, so no, I don't want to change the axes. I leave them this way. And now I can go to my shop drawing export. So that's in this case still export shop drawing, but instead of piece by piece, this is wall. This is actually not true. That should be like changed to wall, roof, floor. Um, and then I'm just going to check quickly my settings, and I want to make sure that I want a horizontal um, drawing. We see that this is my CLT export, and this is the settings for the solid wood shop drawings. So here that should work. I can go to wall. It's creating a clipboard, so right click. It's exporting to clipboard number 1 again. So it's taking a few seconds, and now I can go to my 2D and I can paste the result here. And you have your drawing with different views again, title block already fill in. And what's interesting is you see the location of these panels on the roof. So I see this is panel number 20. If we go here, that's panel 21. etc. So with dimensions automatically fill in. Okay, so now we are done with the production number. The next step is the assembly numbers. So I'd like to start with um, like the installation with my glue lamps. So I do Control A M for material. I'm gonna hide the production number, and here I would like to define how this whole structure will be installed, from what part I will be starting with. So that's under export list, assembly list, and here it's a manual um, uh, like function. I need to go to options, and here we have manual positioning. So yes, we want to start from scratch, and we will be starting from number 1. The increment will be 1. So I click OK. And here down at the bottom, you have some options. So here I'm going to start with this post here. So you just left click and it will increment. You can press H and it will hold. So the next number will be 2. So I just left click. Now 3, if I press H, it's gonna add like number 3 several times. So here, so first post to install, second the girt across, then next one, next one. So then I'm gonna assemble with these guys, and so on and so forth. Left click. That's pretty straightforward. Okay, now I can get out. I've assigned the installation numbers to these guys. I can now select the roof, Control A M, and then I can continue for the roof, export, list, assembly, option, manual, yes. And now we we see that we can start from 20 and the increment will be 1. So now we see number 20. Here, the beauty with this is the fact that I can press Shift and Control, and then let's say I want to start from the bottom here, and we would like to go up this way. And automatically, when dragging the line across, it's finding what part is crossed by the line first, and it's incrementing. So you see here 20, 21, etc. And then I can press Shift Control and do it here again. So that's quick and easy. You see you can press D, so you have some shortcuts. Here you could change the starting number and change and start with like different panels or whatever. So there are some options. If you make a mistake, you can press V or N for the next one to jump and increment by 1. That can be done. So there we go. We have um, our installation number or assembly number defined. Now there is a nice feature. Um, you can find it under Window and here under General Display Filter. So ideally you should have um, a second monitor and you could move this across, but you can customize here what's available in the um, general display filter. So I see here I could select easily and quickly only the CLT, and by pressing Control, you could add some um, more items, or you could also press Shift, so here, and Shift down here. That's also visible. So here you have two options. So here, when you click on concrete, it's hiding the rest. If you check the box, it will activate it. Okay, here I press J. What I'd like to show you is I can refresh. What I'd like to show you, I'd like to hide the model, Control A, hide it. And here what I can, yeah, let's move this slightly outside. And then I'd like to start with eventually what's empty. No, that's not really interesting. I'm gonna hide. Now I'd like to show you, let's bring part number one. And here if I press Shift, so here I can press Control and add the next one. And now I forgot how to do it. Yeah, there we go. If I press Shift and the arrow keys on the keyboard, I can show the sequence, how this all structure should be installed. So I think that's a pretty neat feature here. Then the last option, the last point I'd like to check today is the ability to export this construction um, in WebGL. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna export files, web viewer, and here in the hierarchy, I can include different attributes. Here I'm including the assembly list, and if I export it, we will be able to share this model with partners. So there we go, and here we have the assembly numbers, so I can hide it, and then you see here this can be loaded as well. There is also a feature here that actually um, runs the animation automatically. So here there is a small issue, but this is supposed to show each part. It should bring each part the same way I did before in 3D to populate this model. So that's by clicking on the crane here. Yep. So that's it for today. Thank you for your attention, and stay tuned.